All right, good morning, everyone. As Lane mentioned earlier, my name is Joshua Bybee. I'm the preaching intern here at Mayfair, and I have had a really good summer. I want to thank you guys for all the opportunities, all the encouragement, and I'm just one department of all the interns, but I know all the other interns have felt loved and they have felt welcomed, and we just kind of want to say thank you a little bit for all that you guys have done for us. So yeah, I'm the preaching intern, and my dad's the preacher, so it's been fun. It's kind of, my relationship with Dad has changed throughout the years a little bit. It's gone from, keeping me in line to coach to counselor and now to friend and now boss. So it's been a lot of fun getting to work with Dad. You guys thought you could get away from the Bybees for a week while he's in Scotland, but it turns out you guys are stuck with us again. So they're doing a really good job in Scotland. The pictures I've gotten from my brother Jackson, it's been beautiful. The pictures they've sent me, they've had a lot of fun over there, and they're doing a really good job. So today we're going to be talking out of Daniel 3. So I'm going to let you guys continue to turn there. And throughout this, in Daniel 3, we see heat and fire as a theme. So I want to tell you a time where I felt the heat. So this was my my sophomore year in high school, and I think it's safe to say, as many sophomore high school boys are, you're pretty lazy around the house. You don't help out a lot, you don't really do a lot, and so Mom had this idea because we have 3 kids, and she was like, okay, for Thanksgiving, I'm gonna make a list, and I want you kids to pick out one thing that you're gonna help out with Thanksgiving, the meal. And I'm just like going on this list. It's my Thanksgiving break. Like, I really don't want to be helping cook. I just like to eat the food. I don't want to cook the food. So I'm looking at this list and I'm like, okay, what's the easiest thing? Like, what can get me out of here the fastest? Like, I'm just trying to be on my break, enjoy, like, no schoolwork, no baseball, whatever it is. And I'm scrolling through this list and I see tea. And I was like, all right, this should be like 10 minutes. We should be fine. Mom even had the boiling water already on the stove and she already had it all set up. So she calls me down, it's Thanksgiving Day, I'm just, when are we gonna eat, all that. And so I am a little bit challenged in the kitchen, I think it would be safe to say. A couple months before that, I cut my thumb in Baja trying to cut apples. I had this great idea of, let's get up early and, help everyone in the kitchen. So I was already being super cautious because I had to get 11 stitches in Baja. So I was being really, really cautious about this. You got this hot water. And so I come down and Mom's like, all right, you have the pitcher, it's got the tea bags in it. She goes, all you have to do is pour this water in and I will take care of the rest. Like, it's, you would think it would be really, really easy. So I'm holding the pitcher in my left hand and I have the water and I'm pouring it and it's like so slow. Like, I'm being overly cautious. Like, it's just so slow. And Mom goes, well, you can pour a little bit faster. And I do not know the structural makeup of a teapot, but apparently the teapot we have, the top of it is like just an idea because it can come off. Like, I had no idea that it could even do this. Like, what's the point of the top of the teapot if it just falls off? So I'm pouring and pouring and pouring, and I'm going so slow. Mom, all right, pour a little faster. So, I took that to the max. So I just, boom, go like that, and I ended up dumping boiling hot water on my hand, and I got a picture of what my hand looked like after. So I don't even know what that is. Like, it was there. And so we spent, Mom and I, the next day we went to the walk-in clinic, and I have not been asked back on the Thanksgiving help prep. Dad and I just kind of sit in the back from here on out, and we let everyone else take care of it. But that was a time where I literally felt the heat. Like, that was hot. I felt the heat there, and that heat caused me to pull back. I pulled back when I dumped the boiling hot water on my hand. That's a natural reaction for us to pull back. You've probably started to feel the heat a little bit in the past couple weeks. It's getting hot. It's July. We're in Alabama. Like, it is hot. It has been up over 100 degrees, the heat index. Like, I played golf yesterday. For some reason, my roommate picked a 3 o'clock tee time. It was hot yesterday. Like, it is getting hot. That's not really the heat that I'm going to be talking about today. No, I'm going to be talking about a different kind of heat. I'm talking about maybe you felt the heat mentally, you felt the heat emotionally, or maybe you felt the heat even a little bit spiritually. Like I said, when we feel the heat, it's a natural reaction to pull back, to pull away. It's not inviting. No one likes to touch things that are hot and burning. I don't know about you, but I like my water cold. I don't like my water hot or room temperature. We all have that phrase, you're playing with fire, son. That normally you're playing with a little bit of fire. That fire is dangerous. It can get out of control. We have to be careful around the fire. Now, some of you, when you go camping and you have your s'mores around the fire, some of you guys, and I don't understand this, you like to get the marshmallow like charred, and that just blows my mind. Or one of my best friends, he doesn't like regular Cheez-Its. He likes like the extra crispy toasty, and I'm like, it's already toasted to be in chip form. Like, that's just disgusting. But we have to be careful around the fire. Your s'mores, your marshmallow, it can literally catch on fire. Some of us, when we're kids, we don't understand what things are hot means. Jackson touched the stove when he was very little, and we were all like, the worst thing mom could have said was don't touch the stove, because then he went and touched the stove. And there was a period of time where on my social media I just kept getting these same videos that were popping up, and it was babies at hibachi. I have no idea like how that got on my algorithm, but it's cool because you get to see babies like first interaction with heat. So we can play that video. Yeah, so I think that was the first time seeing fire or heat for that baby there. So that's a pretty adequate reaction. They probably felt the heat a little bit, but I thought that captured it. Heat's not inviting. It causes us to pull back. It's a natural reaction to pull back from the heat. Well, our reaction is to pull back from the heat, but there's a different group of people who they make a different choice. They choose to run headfirst into the heat, if you will. If we can go to the next slide. Instead of pulling back from the heat, these are the people who charge headfirst into the fire, and we're very blessed to have them protect us. They make that bold choice to run headfirst into the heat, that not inviting place. We thank God for those men and women who work in those fields. As I was putting this talk together and throughout the years, Michael Underwood, he was one of my huddle leaders, and Paul Darwin, one of the members of the church here, I had just, in passing, had talked to them and just said, hey, what's it like being a firefighter? Michael was a firefighter, and Paul is still actively a firefighter, and I had always been intrigued, with being a firefighter. I thought it was something that was really, really cool, and, I just wanted to know, like, hey, what's that actually like? You do something that, not a lot of people get to do. And, here are some of the things that they said that stuck out to me. They said that when you're in a burning building, you can't really see anything. And I thought that was strange because you have the fire and that's bright. But they said, no, you can't see anything. The smoke gets in the way. You can just feel the heat, but the smoke gets in the way. And the reason why I picked this picture is because at the top you have this smoke. And there's no seeing through that. So I thought that was something that was really, really interesting. They kept talking about this danger that was caused by the smoke and how much of a threat that was. They said it's like when you're walking around in your house at night and all the lights are off and you're trying to find the bathroom and you're looking around. I'm a college athlete, and when I do that, I feel the most unathletic I have ever felt in my life trying to walk around my house at night. They say that's what it's like, the smoke. I guess I had never thought of it like that, I just, thought it was pictured how it was on TV, those guys can normally see pretty good. They go and help someone and they can see, but no, they said that smoke causes such a problem. They said because of that smoke, you have to rely on your team, your teammates. You always want to have a hand on the guy in front of you and the guy behind you. Have a hand on you because, you're most of the time walking through someone's house and there's stuff all over the floors and everywhere. So you have to worry about that, but you can't see. They said it can feel pretty lonely in there at times if you get separated from your team and the whole time there's just imminent threat around you. You have to work as your team, work with your firefighters to see. So this morning I want to tell you a story about when God makes this same kind of decision. Instead of pulling back from the heat, God goes straight into the fire. He shows up right there in the middle of the smoke, the middle of that confusion, and he's right there with us. He promises us he'll never leave us and he'll never forsake us. So like I've said, our scripture is going to come out of Daniel 3 today. I'm going to give us a little bit of context for that. So the book of Daniel takes place when the Jewish people are captives in Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar is the Babylonian king. Nebuchadnezzar, he's a little full of himself. He's the hot shot. He's the man in charge. He builds this golden statue, and he demands that everyone bow down and worship it when all the music instruments are going, and this big whole ordeal. He wanted to just, pump it up, pump himself up. He said, whoever refuses this will be thrown into what's described as a fiery furnace. But there's 3 Jewish boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They defy the king's order. So then the king brings them in. He's got his little court posse, and they question, why aren't you bowing down, all this stuff. They even give him another chance. They say, no, we're not going to bow down. We have our God. King Nebuchadnezzar, he ends his last threat that we see in verse 15. He says, and who is the God who will deliver you out of my hands? That's what he says. King Nebuchadnezzar is very arrogant in this. He's almost, teeing up the ball for God right there. So here's how they respond. Starting in verse 16. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. Nebuchadnezzar, filled with fury, and the expression of his face was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times more than it was usually heated. And he ordered some of the mighty men in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the fiery burning furnace. Then these men were bound with their cloaks, tunics, hats, and their other garments were thrown into the burning fiery furnace. Because the king's order was so urgent and the furnace overheated, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell bound into the fiery furnace. Nebuchadnezzar was astonished, and he rose up in haste. He declared to his counselors, Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire? They answered and said to the king, True, O king. And he answered and said, But I see 4 men unbound walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the appearance of the 4th is like a son of the gods. Nebuchadnezzar came to the door of the burning fiery furnace. He declared, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and come over here. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out from the fire, and the satraps, the prefects, the governors, and the king's counselors gathered together. They saw that the fire had not had any power over the bodies of these men. The hair on their heads was not singed. Their cloaks were not harmed, and they had no smell of fire upon them. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him. Set aside the king's command, they yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own. So this is one of my favorite stories in the Bible. It's an easy story to understand. It's a visual story. You can see it played out in your mind very easily. One of the things I love about this story is it's a story of comfort and security and protection. And that's what this story should do for you. If we were going to classify this, we would probably call this a feel-good Bible story. Pump it up, build up your faith. You're like, yeah, let's do it. The boys were protected, they're safe. Probably would be a feel-good story. And the whole point of this story is the Lord saves them. That's the main point of the story. But one thing that sticks out to me about this story is the faith of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Their unwavering faith. They say, even if we die, we will not bow down. So they know God can save them, but they don't know God will. That's the faith. They know God has the power to save, and he can save them, but in this moment, they truly don't know that God will save them. There was nothing before that, gave them that hope of, okay, we might not. So they knew God had the power, but they didn't know if it would happen. That's where this even if faith is so powerful. They trust God either way. That's the beauty of the story. And these three young men, they stood together and they honored their commitment to God. As Christians, unity is one of our biggest strengths. It's something that should give us power. We're to love one another. We're to stand beside each other as a community, be there for each other in times of need. We're able to hold each other accountable. That's what those three boys were able to do. Said, no, the three of us together, no. We ain't bowing down, no matter how hot you make that furnace, you know? But maybe if it was one-on-one and they felt that heat of that furnace, they saw men that were throwing them in fall in and die, yeah, they probably would have given in. But together, they were able to do it. And that should be a call for us to work together and do things together and hold each other accountable. This goes back to the example of what Paul and Michael were talking about. Your team, your firefighter team, you know, you have to rely on each other. You have to do it together. We need our brothers and sisters to go through that fire with us, to go through that adversity, to be there in times of need. There's so much division in the world today. There's so much hatred in the world today. Everything that's being put out there is based upon division and hate and meant to divide us even more. And if there's one thing that shouldn't be divided, it's the church. It's our people, God's people. We should work together. This should be a call to us to be like the three boys. There's another piece that we see here in Daniel 3. Not only do Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, do they stand together and go into the fiery furnace, but it says there's a fourth figure here, a fourth person in that fire with them, who they probably didn't think was in that fire with them. Nebuchadnezzar, he was astonished at this, and he saw through the smoke, he saw through the fire, and he says the appearance had the person like a son of the gods. Nebuchadnezzar, he probably gets participation grade on this one. He's close, but no cookie. He doesn't really get it. I believe that person was the Son of God. Not like a son of God, the Son of God. I believe that was Jesus right there with them, protecting Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. In the Bible, Jesus calls himself Emmanuel. That means God with us. This is nail on the head right here. He was with them. He was protecting them. He was keeping them safe. This is a truth that we find repeated over and over in the Bible. In the heat and smoke and fire of adversity, God is with us. So one of the things that Lee, Lane, and my dad had me do this summer was I did 2 of these. I spent time at another church learning from a minister there, being able to pull from them and see how they do things and just get experiences under my belt, get reps, if you will. So I was in Houston a couple weeks ago with Corey Trevathan and their family. Corey and my dad were youth ministers here at Mayfair together, and that Corey's church had a guest speaker that Sunday. His name's Rick Ashley. He's a very, very good preacher based out of Dallas. So he's speaking in Houston, and he's a big time preacher. So I am dialed in. I'm also on the front row with Corey's family. So I'm dialed in. I'm just soaking up every word. And I even got to hear the sermon twice. So if I didn't pay attention once, I had another shot. But one of the things he said in his sermon, he said, the end of human ability is just the start of our God's ability. And that stuck out to me. I was like, wow, that's a great way to put it. The end of human ability is just the start of God's ability. I think it's safe to say that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, standing in front of that fire, they're at the end of their human ability. Literally the guards that threw them in died. They were at the end of their human ability. They felt the intensity, the heat of that fire. But God says, I am more powerful than that little fire. He does not forsake his promise to these 3 boys. He stands by them. God doesn't forsake his promise to them, and he will not forsake his promise to you. God runs straight into the fire to save us, just like he did for those 3 boys. In Hebrews 13:5, God says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And that is a promise that you can take to the bank. That should give you hope. He's always with his people. Even when the fire is raging, when it gets loud, he's with his people. When the smoke has us lost and confused and we can't see, he is with his people. He's right there with us, right there. And his light shines through that smoke. One of my favorite worship songs is the song Waymaker. It describes God as a waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper. My favorite part, a light in the darkness. God made a way for these three boys when it seemed impossible, and they were at the end of their human ability. God made a way. He delivered them from the fire. He kept his promise. He always keeps his promises. My favorite part, light in the darkness. God was a light in the darkness. This fits perfectly to what we were talking about with all the smoke and how you can't see at all. I love this image. So you have all this smoke and you can't see. No one in there can see. It's so dark, but what's shining through all of that? Jesus, the light. That fits perfectly. His light was so bright that he said, what, there's a fourth man in there? That's Jesus. His light shines through the smoke of this world, through all the scary intimidations of the devil. Jesus shines through that. We talked about this earlier. It's easy for those firefighters to feel alone and scared and abandoned when they get separated. I guarantee you those three boys had never felt more scared, more abandoned than their entire life. They're staring death right down the barrel. Those are the times when Jesus is there for us. His light is there for us. We can see him. We can't see in the smoke, but Jesus is right there with us. Right when we think we are all alone and we are facing whatever it is, he's right there with us. So what we can learn from this is God doesn't pull back from the heat that we face. No, he runs straight into that fire to face that for us. So how is God's word speaking to you right now? So what are you hearing out of this story today? Maybe you're feeling the heat right now. In a sense, you could be in the furnace right now. Do you face the pressure to conform? Face the pressure to bow down when everyone else says, yes, I'll bow down? Do you face that same pressure? What are you bowing down to? Maybe there's some smoke in your life that's keeping you from seeing. You know, we see Peter, when he has his eyes on Jesus, he can walk on water. When he takes his eyes off Jesus, he sinks like a rock. Maybe there's some smoke getting in the way of you seeing Jesus. Maybe you have the fire of temptation. I like to think of it this way. Talking about fire, those wildfires we hear about and they catch and they go and get out of control. Maybe that's how temptation is in your life. Maybe it's getting out of control. You think you got a grip on it, but you have no grip on it. We all face temptation in this. You're not alone. Every single person faces temptation. But the same question is, what can I do about it? What am I going to do about it? I don't know what to do about it. Are you relying on your team, your family, your friends, your loved ones? I guarantee you there's not many one-man crew firefighter teams. I don't think they'd be very successful. I wouldn't want to call them, in a time of need. Are you relying on your team of believers who's there to back you up and who love you and see through? Maybe you're feeling the presence of God. He says, I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. He always shows up for us. So wherever we find ourselves this morning, we need to be encouraged by the even if faith of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. This even if we die, I'm not going to bow down faith. You can't change our mind, Nebuchadnezzar, no matter how hot you make that furnace. So we have to be willing to stand firm in a world that's full of smoke and heat and confusion today. It's cool Nebuchadnezzar, his heart gets changed so fast. At the end of the story, he goes, we're going to praise the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego because he delivered them from the fire. So what we can take from that is our faith has the ability to change other faith in this world. Our faith has the ability to change how other people view things because our God is more powerful and he can protect us and he will deliver us. So what we can hear from this story is God's going to protect his people no matter what. This should give us security. This should give us hope and a desire. Jesus runs headfirst into that fire to save us. What would our lives look like if we remembered that in the heat and smoke and fire of adversity, God is with us? I couldn't imagine what it must have felt like for these boys. You're told to bow down and do all this and this whole big thing, and You say no, and then they're going to make an example out of you, much less it's in front of thousands of people, and then this fiery furnace, like I don't even know what they must have been thinking in that moment. Probably felt really scared, probably felt really alone. But those three boys said no in a world that says yes. Today, the world is saying yes. Today, we openly celebrate sin. It's become the new norm to just say yes. Society is openly celebrating sin today. We have to be like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and say no. We have to say no. We have to keep our eyes on Jesus. We talked about that with the Holy Sexuality Conference with Dr. Christopher Yuan a few years ago. Satan has told us so many lies. Satan has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. He likes to dress things up differently. Just when you feel like you've mastered something, he comes right back with another thing. Satan has your playbook, if you will. We have to be like the three boys. We have to say no in a society that says yes. Satan wants you to start tomorrow. If you start today, you're taking the right step. Satan wants you to start tomorrow. If you keep trying to start tomorrow, you're never going to get it done. You have to start today. So when you're in that furnace, you're going to face smoke, heat, and fire. I'm going to break that down a little bit for us. So smoke. So maybe you're starting to see some things in your life, some habits that aren't from the Lord. You can see smoke billowing and you can see it. So maybe you're starting to see some habits. Maybe you're starting to see some of the lies of the devil. Maybe you're starting to see that smoke of that temptation in your life. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Maybe you're starting to see some of those temptations. Don't let that smoke blind you from the truth of Jesus, from Jesus, his light, and his power. Also, don't let that smoke make you feel like you're all alone, like you have nowhere to go, and that you are just surrounded in darkness. Jesus is right there with us. He shines through that darkness. We just need to reach out and grab his hand. If you belong to Jesus, you are never alone. I want you guys to hear that and feel that. If you belong to Jesus, you are never alone. He's never going to leave us. He'll never forsake us. That's a promise you can take to the bank. So heat, obviously, this is something you can physically feel. You can feel yourself getting further and further away from the Lord. You feel yourself starting to walk the wrong path, walk the path of the world, walk the path of the devil. Maybe some things, it's starting to get a little hot. You're starting to feel some of that pressure. You're kind of feeling the heat a little bit. Maybe that is where you are. Where there's smoke, there's fire. You need to pay attention to that heat before it gets too late, just like those wildfires. Once it breaks out, it's really hard to stop it. We need to pay attention to that heat. Instead of us trying to deal with our fires, we should probably turn it over to Jesus. He's pretty powerful. It sounds so elementary, but it's something that we struggle with because we're humans and we like control and we like to do things, but it can be hard. So we need to watch out for that heat because once something catches on fire, it can get going quick. Jesus has the power to save. That's the point of this story. Maybe if you are at a point in your life where things are getting out of control, maybe you're in the fire, maybe you're in the furnace, maybe you're feeling that heat, maybe the smoke is cloudy. Through all of that, I want you to remember that Jesus has the power to save. We have the single most powerful warrior on our side. Jesus beat death. There's nothing more scary in this world than death, and Jesus beat it. Jesus has the power to save. We have Jesus on our side. That's what I want you guys to remember. Through all of this, through the story, the boys facing imminent death, they're at the end of their ability. That's when God shows up. Jesus has the power to save, and I'm praying that you would please accept that invitation. If you want to give your life to Jesus in baptism today, we can do that. If you have something that you feel like you want to share with this church family that's been put on your heart, we can do that as well with this invitation song. My prayer is that you guys would turn over that control to Jesus. Let him put out our fires. He has the power to save. He created everything around us, and he loves you, and he is here for us. And when we can't see in the smoke and when we feel all alone, Jesus is right there with us. In the name of Jesus Christ, the sovereign Lord who makes all things new, he who has ears, let him hear. Let's stand and let's sing.